In the community of Ilupeju, Lagos, it is thought that about half of the residents are people of Indian heritage. This is not a problem in and of itself, because Nigeria is welcoming towards immigrants. And complaining about people's presence just because they have Indian heritage is wrong. However, the district of Ilupeju has a significant amount of industries compared to other parts of the Mushin local government area. Many of the large firms are controlled and run by people of Indian heritage. Who also tend to live in the large gated communities within Ilupeju. Most of the people who live and work in Mushin are not that rich, except for the Indians, it is said. In Ilupeju, it is the Indians who are the Ajebota. Like most Ajebota, they tend to associate only within their own wealth class. But rather than spreading out across Lagos, buying up and living in the best apartments in Lekki or Victoria Highland, sending their children to Grange School, Christland High School, or Meadow or College, the Indians keep returning to Ilupeju. Yes, the area is nice to live in if you have money. But why intentionally segregate yourselves? Why are there repeated comments by Nigerians that the high rental prices for Nigerians in Ilupeju are caused by Nigerian landlords who either charge Nigerians more when they try to rent housing in Ilupeju or rent exclusively to Indians, refusing Nigerians completely? Because Indians like their community. And the Indian residents themselves are satisfied that they live in an area where they say that it is very safe.
फिर वो अच्छा ये एरिया इलुपेजू इलुपेजू ये इलुपेजू एरिया है.
There are about 20,000 Indians.
इसमें ना 20,000 इंडियन है.
And you can see very few Nigerians.
यहाँ हाँ ये पूरे इंडियन ही है इसमें. इलुपेजू हाँ बिल्डिंग्स देखेंगे सारे इंडियंस. 90% आपको ये मेरी स्ट्रीट इंडियन की ही है, समझ लो.
तो इंडियन कम्युनिटी बनी हुई है यहाँ पर.
बनी है ना.
अगर कोई कुछ दिक्कत होती है तो सब इकट्ठे हो जाते हैं.
इंडियन ये क्या है अपना बना है
ये इंडियन कल्चरल एसोसिएशन.
अच्छा
तो वो कोई एक्शन लेते हैं, कोई बात होती है तो इकट्ठा होते हैं आप लोग.
सब होता है सब.
Most Nigerians are unfamiliar with the concept of discrimination on the basis of race or caste. This has never been something that Nigeria has had to deal with. Nigeria has good civil rights laws. These flow from our constitution and are implemented in acts that guarantee the rights of disabled people, of children, of gender equality, and prevent discrimination against people with HIV or AIDS. However, although our constitution declares that no citizen of Nigeria shall be subjected to any disability or deprivation, merely by reason of the circumstances of his birth, we have not seen any need for specific laws to guarantee equality of opportunity. There are no laws or social prohibitions around discriminating over who you sell goods to or rent property to. There are no social or legal measures to prevent a Hausa house help being treated worse than an Igbo house help, or to prevent an Indian heritage house agent refusing to rent property to a Yoruba man because they are Yoruba. Our society has never had to deal with discrimination on a large scale, where it starts systemically affecting people, and then there needs to be specific laws and regulations to stop it happening. Or so we think and believe. I'm sure that many members of the Indian migrant community in Ilupeju believe that they are acting like good, responsible Nigerian citizens. But how many of them are actually behaving in a way that supports systems of social and economic exclusion for other Nigerians on the basis of those Nigerians' birth and lineage? They are behaving as though caste prejudice and discrimination is acceptable, which is against our constitution that these migrants have sworn to uphold. According to the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, there are over 50,000 Indians currently known to reside in Nigeria. What that ministry calls Indian is mostly people of Indian heritage, with Nigerian or other citizenship, and Indian nationals. Other Nigerians who live in Ilupeju have claimed that the Indians mind their business. The Indian school is a big reason all Indians would prefer to stay in Ilupeju. The school made their population to grow, and business people wanted to establish supermarkets in and around Ilupeju because of the growing population of Indians. Top supermarkets and Indian restaurants can be seen at strategic locations. This was said by Mosuru Odemuyiwa, a printer and a Nigerian resident of Ilupeju. They have created many businesses in the area that they then work for in senior and management positions, according to the Daily Trust newspaper, implying that it is Nigerians who are employed in the less skilled and junior positions. Indians have carried out this strategy in other African countries, moving to a country with capital to start up a business, employing locals in the low-skilled positions, but recruiting other Indians to work in the high-skill positions, keeping the high-value intellectual property to themselves, creating a lot of wealth-generating industrial capability, and ensuring that no local is in charge of any of it or ever learns how to reproduce it themselves. The government of Uganda expelled most Indians in the early 1970s because they controlled over 90% of the country's businesses and were actively ensuring other Ugandans did not develop the skills to run those businesses. Kenya's economy is still significantly influenced by Indian firms. In 2024, Indian heritage South Africans were 2.6% of the economically active population, but had over 11% of the top management jobs, and almost 12.5% of senior management positions. Tanzania, Ghana, Zambia, and Mozambique have had similar issues, where people whose loyalty lies with a foreign country, India, are in control of significant parts of the economy. When we gained independence from the UK in 1960, Indians came to Nigeria to establish new businesses and factories, and to replace the international supply chains that the British colonial service previously organized. These Indians and their families have remained a presence in our economy ever since. But they seem to still consider themselves to be Indian first before Nigerian. The government of India has supported these migrants by helping to set up organizations like the Indian Language School. These are migrants who looked for the opportunity to get a job in Nigeria. And once in our country, they now call themselves Indian expatriates to declare themselves as distinct, special. They came to look for work and opportunity in our country. But as they slowly settled, they also came and opened a school that is exclusively for their own children, to ensure that their kids are kept separate from the Nigerian education system. They may have decided that they want their children to remember their Indian heritage and be taught in Hindi. But there is a difference between deciding that a particular style of education environment is better at teaching your child what being Indian means, and intentionally creating a segregated environment to prevent your children seeing something non-Indian as equivalent in capability. If they genuinely think the Indian way of doing things is better, why did they not just visit, but move their families back to India? Why do they have the temerity to think it is acceptable to try and create an Indian colony for their children to grow up in inside Nigeria and exclude Nigerians? You come to Nigeria, earn enough money to declare yourself a Jebota. Act as though you want to surround yourself with everything Indian. But instead of employing Indian servants, cleaners, gatemen, house helps, you employ Nigerians. And you want us to believe that it's just a coincidence that this matches the racist fantasy of being high caste and being able to get away with bullying people of darker skin tone than you. Things that are illegal in India. Many of these people come to get work in Nigeria, but don't want to integrate into our country. They just want to make money from it, but remain distinct, better than, compared to Nigerians. India spends a lot more money on Nigerian imports than Nigeria spends on India. Nigeria is the second largest exporter of goods and services in Africa to India as of 2022. But this is mostly crude oil, as India is the biggest customer of Nigeria's crude oil products. India has been Nigeria's biggest overall customer for most of the last 10 years. And Nigeria buys many value-added manufactured products from India. What this means is that Nigeria relies on India as an essential supplier of goods. But India needs Nigerians as customers to control their $2.7 billion trade deficit with Nigeria. It is very important for India that Nigerians view India and Indians as more capable than Nigeria. Otherwise, Nigeria might stop buying India's products, or even worse, start trying to produce Nigerian versions of those same products. The Indian families, such as the Chanarais, Athiramanis, Chalarams, Keswanis, Matanis, or people like Deepak Singhal, all need to be seen as better than Nigerians to ensure the money train keeps flowing for their families. The Indian government estimated that in 2022, the 135 Indian-owned or operated companies in Nigeria are the second largest employment bloc in Nigeria, after the federal government of Nigeria. Is it that surprising then that a school explicitly set up to service the needs of Indian families, working for Indian-owned firms in Nigeria, would be given leniency when they don't comply with Nigerian law because of the impact it would have on the economy if those Indian-owned firms started actively resisting cooperation with the Nigerian government? If you allow a group of people to run things their own way inside your country, a separate education curriculum or teaching lessons only in a specific language, then you must ensure that when that group of people do those things, they are doing them in a way that serves the integration of that group into Nigerian methodologies and culture, into the Nigerian way of doing things, and that they are not maintaining a segregated system. Coming in and just doing their own thing without this being considered is bad. How they conduct themselves to their own social habits and customs must always be monitored for how well they are integrating with Nigerian social habits and customs. Just because the Indian language school has the backing of important foreign people does not mean that we should treat those people's significance the way we treat important Nigerians. They do not have the innate interest of protecting and representing Nigeria and Nigerians. In fact, as the Indian High Commissioner, the chairperson of the ILS has the responsibility, as a representative of the Indian government, to push against Nigerian culture and promote Indian interests above those of Nigeria. It is their job to push against the boundaries of regulation and Nigerian control to benefit India. Treating them the way we do some Nigerian dignitaries, their position means that we relax some of the rules, is the opposite of how we should be treating someone in this role. We as Nigerians need to monitor and restrict people like this more than Nigerians, because their position obligates them to resist our government's regulation in favor of Indian interests. They are not bad people for doing this. They are just being loyal to their Oga, India.